Hey guys, it's Spider Pig, and today I want to talk about my first MultiGP kind of racing experience that I just recently did last weekend, or last weekend, 2 weekends ago. And basically, it was a qualifying event. Basically, you qualify, and if you actually make the top six, you get to kind of go forward, and there's prizes at the end and things like that. So I just want to talk about as a new person coming into this. What it is and what kind of like the process was. So the reason I kind of got into it is because I wanted to start meeting people in my area who were flying quads and just kind of learn from them and kind of fly with them and get more experience. In my area, there's not a lot of people right now, so I just wanted to kind of learn. And there's a group up in Lehigh Valley, which is about an hour from here, and there was a fun fly about a month ago or 2 months ago, and it was at this guy's backyard, and there was a course set up, and it was a really fun time. I learned that flying through gates is a lot more difficult than I thought it would be, so it was definitely a good eye-opening experience for me. So 2 weekends ago, there was an actual event, and what happens is you go to the MultiGP site, and I'm actually on it right now, and you sign up, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but when you sign up, you get a frequency assigned to you, and my frequency was F2. That way you can kind of set up all your quads ahead of time to be on that frequency, which is what I did. And when you get there, you kind of have some practice time, and I think I used about 2 batteries during practice time. I kind of just went through the course, and during the practice run, they had kind of a shortened version of the track for newbies, which I am, so I kind of practiced on that. But during the actual qualifying, they actually removed one of those parts, so it got a little more difficult. But thankfully, because I've been to that track before, I kind of had a little more knowledge of it, so it wasn't too bad. So let's talk about the track real quickly. When you first start, you go through a starting gate. Now, if you're actually doing the race part, or if you're actually really experienced, you go through what's known as a drop gate, which is basically a raised gate that you kind of have to drop through. After that, there's 3 gates. There's a low, medium, like low, high, low kind of gate scenario. And the problem in this area was that the VTX frequency, like, there's like always like a little bit of issue there. So I try to sit a little closer to that area so I can fly through it and still have my video okay. Now at that point, you make a 90-degree left turn and you fly through this kind of box structure. Once you go through that box structure, you kind of curve to the left, and there's another gate there, and then you curve more to the left, and then there's a loop, like a round loop above that box structure you fly through. Once you fly through that, you got to go low, and there's a gate and another round pass you got to do. Before, they had flags there that you kind of had to S-curve around, and this time they had this tower made out of PVC, and newbies can go through the right little side of it, but if you're experienced, you have to go from the top down. And then there's 2 more gates, so there's a gate, and then there's a kind of a turn, and there's a gate, and then you're back to the beginning. So that's the track. So what happens is you have some practice time, and you kind of get to know the course, and then you have qualifying rounds, and there's 6 qualifying rounds. What happens is typically there's somebody on the same frequency as you and your frequency buddies, and when you're flying, they would watch your video feed and kind of act as a spotter for you to make sure that you're going through all the gates and you're going through all the correct things correctly, and you measure how many laps you're doing. So for the qualifying rounds, they're 2 minutes each, and you try to get as many laps as you can in those 2 minutes for those 6 rounds. And then they tally up how many laps you basically did. Now, if you're partially through a lap, when the 2 minutes are up, you can finish that lap. So there was one time when I had just passed the start gate when the 2 minutes came up, and if I would have been okay, I would have gotten the 3rd lap in, but unfortunately I crashed. It is a lot more nerve-wracking to fly under the time than I expected. I didn't really think too much about the other pilots, although I did have one mid-air collision, but I try not to focus on them. I just try to focus on getting as many laps as I can done and flying. So it was pretty good. So let's talk about the actual qualifying rounds. The first round, I tried to change up something I do, which I probably shouldn't have done on the first round. Normally when I take off in stabilized mode, then I switch to acro mode. I need to learn how to start in acro mode. That's my thing. That's one takeaway that I took from this. So the first round, I try to take off in acro mode, and because I was flying this one, was flying crash override, and I had the GoPro mount on it, so I had the GoPro on here. I think it was just a little bit off balanced, and I ended up just crashing right away, and it was crashed that I couldn't recover from, so I wasn't able to take off again, and that was my round one. Second round, I was able to actually get a whole lap in, which is great. I think it did a lot for my confidence. I took off in stabilized mode, and I just went for it, and I felt really great, and it just worked a lot better, and I think it really boosted my confidence once I was able to get a lap in. The third round, I crashed again. So, and you know what? I didn't feel bad because, even watching the professional guys, they crash a lot as well. So, I didn't feel as bad. Now, the fourth round, I was really, really proud of this. I was able to actually get 2 laps in, and I could have got a third if I flew a little better. But again, that was, I think I was just nervous, and I didn't do the thing. But the problem is, on the third round, I found out that my GoPro actually fell off when I hit one of the first gates, and then, thankfully, I crashed in the same place when I was done, and I was able to find my GoPro. So I don't have HD footage of my third round, but I do have the Fat Shark DVR footage of it. The fifth round, I was able to do 1 lap, and it was pretty good. I felt great about that lap. And 6th round, I ended up crashing. So that was kind of the extent of my race. So because I placed, I think it was 9th in the overall score for that, I did not make it to the actual race. You have to be in the top 6 for the actual race. During the actual race, it's basically 5 rounds of 3 laps. So you fly 3 laps, and if you make the 3 laps, whoever comes in first gets 10 points, and then there's a whole point system for the other ones as well. So the guy who won actually is pretty high up on there, and competed in the collision. So he's really, really good, and it's just really, really exciting to watch just how everybody flies. But as part of that portion, I was still being a spotter for my frequency buddy Mitch, and I was able to kind of watch him, and it was actually pretty incredible to watch his footage as well, just to see how he flies. So I was really pretty happy with that, and he did all right. I forget what he placed, but he was pretty good. So overall, I had a great day, and there's a couple takeaways that I've learned from doing this. The first is you need a lot of batteries. Thankfully, I had about 8, I think, batteries with me, and I had my charger with me, and I brought my parallel bolt charger, which I actually got a new one recently that can do 10, so I'll have to check that one out. But I flew about 2 batteries for practice, 6 rounds. That's 8 batteries used up right there. Now, if I would actually made it to the actual race, I would have needed 5 more at least. So that's 11 just for the racing, and then like a couple more if you want to practice. So I've been looking to buy more batteries. I found a couple places to get more batteries. I've been looking at just getting the smaller form ones. I'm using, these are the tattoo ones, just because I like the way they fit on the quads a little better. I think they balance out a little better. And so that's one thing I've learned. The second thing is, on this frame right here, the camera's not really well protected. As you can see, the camera protrudes out, and I found that a lot of crashes I had, the camera got dirty, and even though I was able to recover, I wasn't able to see as well. So I think, you know, one like this one, the camera is protected a little better, and in the future I might go to a quad like this that's a little more protected of the camera, so I can recover better. Now, I flew all the races with this one, just because I was comfortable with it and I was using it. But I did practice afterwards with this one, and I think I might use this one next because I was able to get more speed with this one, and I was pretty maneuverable as well, and I think it's much more protected. So one thing I do want to upgrade is I do want to upgrade the VTX to use the TBS Unify Pro, which is what this one uses, because then I can change the frequencies from my radio. Now, the other thing was, I learned that you gotta bring all the tools you'll need to repair, because at some point you might need to repair things. So thankfully I've been really good on that, but I need to make sure that I have all of my tools. And that's pretty much it. So if you get a chance, I recommend you do one of these races, even if you're just starting out. I think it was a great experience.